Hello everyone, and welcome back to Real Life Struggles. Today we look at the last reason that Dr. Biddle is giving for why the flood is a real story. Today's video, he's going to talk about the construction of the ark. This might surprise you, but I might agree with a little bit more of what he has to say because of what I learned in my days of young earth creationism about the construction of the ark. Let's see what he has to say.
How is it possible that the ark would be able to hold up in such crazy conditions like a flood, tsunamis, and water breaking into the boat? And
this is an excellent question. I hope that Dr. Biddle can actually provide some evidence this time. From what I remember as my time as a young earth creationist, the wide flat bottom of the boat actually would have made it quite seaworthy.
You know, it's amazing, and even secularists have an issue with this because that blueprint was given to Noah thousands of years ago, 300 cubits by 50 by 30. So these dimensions translate to a ship that's between 450 to 510 feet long by about 50 by about 80. So the dimensions are perfect for a seafaring ship.
Now, while researching my response to this, the only websites that are making the claim that the ark would have been perfectly seaworthy are young earth creationist websites. And considering their approach to science, I pretty much dismissed them. The other websites, the secular websites, are actually saying the complete opposite. Number one, nothing this big was ever built in that time. Number two, in later times, when they built a boat that was even smaller than what the ark is described as, it completely emptied a forest of all of its wood. Number three, the inverse square law describes how big something can get and how strong it is. And from what I've read, beams this big would be very weak, and even gentle waves would tear the boat apart. And if you read the story, they're not gentle waves at all. The only good news is, if all of these problems are taken care of, a boat this size apparently could displace enough water to float and would be able to hold all the animals.
It has a 7-to-1 length to width ratio, which is just like the cargo ships today that are in international waters going back and forth with all the rolling seas. They've done studies of the dimensions of the ark by even at the Crane Naval Research Center in the 1990s that have proven with respect to 12 different possible ways of building the ark that the dimensions that God gave Noah were perfect with respect to strength, comfort, and stability. So
I don't know where he's getting the 7-to-1 ratio. The websites talking about the ark are saying it was built in a 3-to-5 ratio. Let's give him the win, and we'll say the ark was perfectly constructed. Modern boats are made out of steel, which is a lot stronger than wood. Even when Answers in Genesis rebuilt the ark, they had to brace it with steel to make it safe enough just to walk around in. So if they had to use steel to make a boat safe enough to walk around in, how is a boat without steel going to survive the waves of a giant worldwide flood? If Noah's Ark could resist 40 days of rain and violent weather, why didn't they make an exact copy for people that are just walking around in it?
why is it so significant and so important that the flood was not just a local flood, a local event, but that it was a global event?
It doesn't. Stories are told and passed down all of the time. I see two possibilities, and both of them involve a lot of hyperbolic language. Either a local flood did inspire this story. Now, this particular flood that actually happened did occur before scholars say that Noah's Ark would have happened, but about 9,400 years ago, the Black Sea did flood. Perhaps that inspired a story that people told, and eventually it made it into the Bible. I mean, just like when you catch the fish and it starts this big, and then it's this big, and then it's this big. Maybe the story got bigger until this flood covered the entire earth. Or number two, there was no flood. People just started telling stories. Maybe the world was generally evil at a certain time. People started talking about what God or their gods would do to solve this problem. Eventually, this story turns into God destroying the entire earth, or their gods destroying the entire earth, and it made its way into Hebrew culture and was written down in the Bible. Now, just in case anyone watching this is questioning Christianity, accepting the first few chapters of Genesis has zero to do with being saved. If you want to know more information, feel free to contact me or leave a comment.
Well, let's just look at what God himself said. God said with respect to the flood, he says, I will destroy them, meaning the animals and the humans, with the earth. God says, I'm going to use the earth as a tool for destroying humans because all the thoughts and intentions of their hearts are evil continually.
This is a great answer. As long as you know nothing about the culture that the Bible was written in. Once you do know that, then you know it's actually a pretty poor answer. There's many examples of hyperbolic language throughout the Old Testament. I'm not even disagreeing about the evil part. People probably were evil. People generally like to be evil. What I'm disagreeing about is the covering the entire earth part. I mean, did the famines that were recorded in Abraham and Jacob's time really extend across the entire earth? When Jacob went to Egypt to buy food, were people in Mexico starving?
So you couldn't have just had one band of humans that were having bad, evil thoughts. And God says, I'm going to destroy just those people. But everybody else, I'm going to spare them. But just these one guys over here, their day is up.
Now, I assumed, even as a young earth creationist, that young earth creationists believed people lived in the same general area up until the time of the flood and until the Tower of Babel made people disperse because God confused their languages. Researching this, it seems that most young earth creationist websites are claiming there's about 240 million up to 4 billion people living on the earth before the flood. So it is possible they didn't all live in the same general area? That being said, Bangladesh does have 174 million people living in an area about 57,000 square miles. Yes, I do use American Freedom Units. So it is possible that a lot of people lived in the same area. It's only important for it to be a global flood in the story, not in real life.
So God says, look, in the mercy for the future humans, I'm going to save one family line, put them tied aboard the ark, but everything else, reset button.
You can watch some of my previous videos or even do a simple Google search to learn the impossibility of the human race surviving a bottleneck like going down to only 6 breeding pairs. 8 people on the ark, but Noah's never said to have children after he got off the ark.
And so the intentions of God was to judge humanity, not to judge one little band of humans, one little tribe of humans that had turned wicked. God says, no, I'm going to destroy them with the earth. All the thoughts and hearts of mankind are evil continually.
The intentions of the story is to teach people that they shouldn't live completely evil lives. There's lots of stories about floods throughout all of the ancient Near East. The reasons behind it differ, but normally the gods are mad at humans and they decide to destroy the earth and everyone in it. Somehow somebody gets saved and life goes on. I, for example, would be pretty bored if the story said that God wiped out Indiana but left everyone else alive. We need to go beyond the story and look at the intentions of why the story was written.
The world that then was destroyed with water. So here we even have a New Testament passage which says the same thing. God's going to destroy the world in the future, this time with fire, but he's going to judge the whole world in the future, and just like he judged the whole world in the past with water.
It's interesting. He seems to get as close as possible to saying it's a theological lesson without saying it's a theological lesson.
Yeah, yeah. And a couple things I'll add to that, guys. Also, think about it. If this was just a local flood, then there would be no need for Noah to take 2 of every kind of animal, knowing that there are other animals in other parts of the world who, after this local flood ended, they'd be able to procreate, and if other animals throughout the world would have been fine, unaffected by this worldwide flood.
The flood described in the Bible would have resulted in rain falling at 11 feet per hour. The absolute worst hurricanes are around 6 inches per hour. The land would have been completely devastated. This to me only adds to the impossibility of life surviving after coming off the ark. How does Noah even get the animals from there? Does he just go there and hang out until everything grows back? Nothing in the biblical story said that Noah traveled far from where the ark landed. So now we're just adding things to the story to make a poor point. I mean, even in the Bible, God tells everyone to spread out, and they say, no, we like it here. We're going to build a tower to heaven.
The Bible is very, very clear that there is a clear parallel between the worldwide judgment and the fact that the earth was made up of evil, wicked people, and so God decided to judge the entire world by a flood. Future judgment that is going to come is going to be very similar to the judgment at the time of Noah, right?
God judges everyone in an important theological story. God judges everyone for real in the future. What's the problem? It seems to me like we should read this story as teaching important lessons and not get hung up on the fact, is it literal or not literal?
So if God did some sort of local judgment in the Old Testament story of Noah and the ark, then how would that parallel and correspond to the judgment that's going to come upon the entire world whenever Jesus returns and establishes his kingdom and judges the earth?
So the biggest problem is they're hung up on this false dichotomy of either it was global and it happened for real, or it was local and it happened for real. They can't seem to think about maybe it's not for real, it's just a story that's important for us to know. It was preserved in the Bible for the same reason they keep bringing it up. If you choose to remain evil, if you refuse to listen to people that are trying to bring you back to God, then in the end, you're going to be judged. Well, the rest of the movie is Dr. Biddle talking about how great the Noah movie is and why everyone should watch it. I personally don't feel like promoting this movie on my channel, so I'm going to skip it. There is a link down in the description if you want to see it yourself. I may actually go watch it just to see if there's anything in the actual movie that would be worthy to respond to, but for now we're finished. I want to say thanks to everyone for going on this journey with me. Later, I'm going to actually take all of these videos, put them all together into one if you want something to watch or listen to later. But anyway, if you do enjoy the video, please share it with your friends. Please like the video, and it would be really great if you could subscribe. I have plenty of other videos on my channel. A couple more are going to pop up pretty soon for you to look at. And if Noah's Ark could resist all of the... I see two things. This is a... Perhaps people... Yes, the intentions of the story is to teach people why they shouldn't leave... God tells